Welcome to The Record Show, your virtual spin around the vinyl industry. Brought to you by Radio Wasteland Records. Yes, Midland has a record store. Here's your host, Jim Gleason.
Well, greetings from the Wasteland, and welcome to another edition of The Record Show. We've got a, interesting one headed your way today. I'll cover the highlights for this week's new releases, spoiler alert, it's a bit sparse, and double spoiler alert, another big label screw job to us small stores. And we'll take an uncomfortable spin from the Wasteland with a completely obscure Michigan artist and a cover that probably should not have been designed. But first, in music news from last week, that's really not quite as serious as a lot of the other news from last week, the so-called Nirvana Baby is suing the band and pretty much everyone else connected to this iconic cover of Nevermind. The guy's name is Spencer Eldon, and he was just 4 months old when this photo was shot for the cover. According to some of the things I've read, his parents were paid $200 for the photo shoot and never signed a release agreement. In fact, they said that they were surprised to see him on the cover sometime after that photo was taken. Eldon's lawyer is alleging sexual exploitation of an infant. Now, the backside of this is that throughout his adult life, Eldon has recreated this pose for various anniversary markings of this album's release. Yet now he's coming forward claiming that sexual exploitation and seeking some damages. Now, whether or not Cobain's decision, and it was his decision to go with this particular image, constitutes sexual exploitation is something that the courts are going to have to figure out. But Eldon has been taking a little bit of pushback online in the form of memes and just a lot of general commentary about that lawsuit. Everything from the Van Halen baby chiming in to the Black Sabbath baby chiming in, calling him all sorts of names and saying just buck up, so to speak. But the big difference is that the Van Halen and the Black Sabbath in particular are artists' renderings, while the Nirvana Nevermind is an actual photograph of an actual person. Somebody should probably also check with the high and dry toddler to find out if he's angry with this also. I'm not making light of this because there have been babies shown in various states of undress throughout the history of album covers. One notably is this one from the Buchanan Brothers, a psych band showing multiple babies, which are censored here as you can see for our YouTube audience. But there are other, sometimes much more risque examples of child nudity on album covers. Mentioned in Eldon's lawsuit are albums such as Blind Faith's self-titled album from 1969 with the visual of a prepubescent teenage girl being shown topless. This cover, by the way, was banned and replaced with something a little more generic, simply showing the band, as was the original back of that cover. Another instance mentioned in the lawsuit is the Scorpions' Virgin Killer. All of those, they say, point to sexual exploitation of minors, and that is part of the argument going into the current Nirvana Baby lawsuit. There are other albums from that time period that have similar types of imagery that today would probably not be allowed whatsoever on an album cover. One of the others is Fleetwood Mac's 1971 album Future Games, which features a topless prepubescent girl standing at a swimming hole. Another that was slightly controversial at the time, but more so recently it seems, is Led Zeppelin's Houses of the Holy. I bring this up because just about a month ago, a member of the Michigan Record Club Facebook page got banned, by Facebook by the way, not by the group's admins, for posting a picture of this album on the group. So we'll just have to follow the case of the Nirvana Baby as it winds its way through court to find out whether or not the claim of sexual exploitation has any merit, or whether or not the Nirvana Baby's adult life and the fact that he's posed for this several times recently, again, but while wearing a bathing suit, will have any bearing on that at all. Something to keep watching for. Now, I've got one more of these questionable album covers coming up in a little bit in our Spin from the Wasteland segment. Time once again on the Record Show for a look at the highlights of this week's new releases headed to an independent record store near you. Ken is off again this week. He'll be back next to check out that week's new releases. It's okay, though, because things are a little slim this week. Out the gate, though, we're starting with another screw job by a major label. Due to release this week was Iron Maiden's new album, Senjutsu. It's a 3 LP set, although there are some CD variants of that. but that was due to be released this Friday by Sanctuary Records, which is a subsidiary of BMG of Germany. But this release, like a few others recently from major artists, has been rationed severely to the distributors here in the US, which means that smaller stores like ours are getting either very little or none of this copy right off the bat for the release. You'll have to check with your local store to see how they are doing with their fill, but I know here we're not getting anywhere near the number that we had asked for. Hopefully enough to cover pre-orders, but we'll just have to wait and see. Again, this is something that's been happening more and more often with these bigger name releases. Not sure what can be done with it from our end other than just keep plugging away and trying to get what we can get. We'll just have to see where things go with this release. Also due this week, though, is another reissue from Friday Music of Skid Row's self-titled album, originally released in 1989. This time around, it's on gold vinyl, and they say it's an audiophile version. Also coming out this week is a reissue from CeeLo Green, his Lady Killer album from 2010. This is on limited edition pink vinyl, and by the way, this is the first time this album will be available on vinyl, so that would be a cool one to get if you could. Then also this week, we've got something from Kat Von D, Love Made Me Do It. This is on a few different variations, including the black vinyl standard, a gold vinyl version, and an indie exclusive glow-in-the-dark vinyl version. And I guess that's synth pop. I'm not too familiar with that work, but we'll check it out and let you know down the line what we think of it. So check that out. Those are just the highlights of this week's new releases. Hopefully you'll have good luck with the Iron Maiden. If not, keep checking in with your local store and hopefully we'll get them eventually. And finally today, we're going to take an uncomfortable spin from the Wasteland that doubles as a very questionable decision in album cover art design. This is an artist by the name of C.G. Woodrow, and the album is Live at the Bellcrest. This came into the store a little while ago, and I've been doing some research on it, trying to get background information before putting it into Discogs. This is an album of piano jazz, recorded live in 1977 at Detroit's Bellcrest Hotel. The building was built in 1926, and in 1983 it was designated as a Michigan Historical Site. Today, it's become a gentrified apartment building on Cass Avenue. But back to this album of live music recorded by C.G. Woodrow. Looking at it, you're just seeing some artist rendering and wondering what the heck is going on in here. It's not until you turn around to the back side of the album that you really get a WTF moment going. This is the one and only album I could find released by G.C. Woodrow. It really shouldn't be so surprising, though. Anybody who acts this creepy around children really isn't going to achieve much in this country. Am I right?
Spin me right round, baby, right round, like a record, baby, round, 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 round.
Thanks for watching The Record Show. If you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe to the Radio Wasteland Records YouTube channel. And be sure to hit that notifications bell so you'll be alerted every time we upload new content.